the first part of this is going to be gain staging, and this is just basically saying I'm going to have each person check individually, one at a time, their parts. I'm going to go into the mixer and actually set the level of the input. So this is pre-speakers. This is before anything comes through the speakers. And if you're doing this right, nothing should be coming through the speakers. We want a nice quiet check of just getting our inputs to where we want them to be. So let's start on that. All right, and I'm going to go in order of everything that's on the mixer because that is nice and orderly. Okay, so if we're on our Soundcraft in this situation, we have our mix and our gain that we can toggle between here. We're on the mix, we're on the gain. So the gain is going to be where I'm going to want to set things if they're too quiet or if they're too loud. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start with the kick drum. So Roger, if you would. Here we can see it coming in, and I want this to be just a little bit hotter. I kind of want it to peak between 24 and 12. And I'll have you stop for a second, Roger. So this brings up a really important part about gain staging. You want people to check at their loudest volume that they're going to be. If it's a vocal and they're up there going, check, check, 1, 2, 1, 2, check. Is that good? Are we good? And then they come out going, ah! Then you're going to be like, okay, I wish I would have checked at that volume because now the speakers are blown and everyone's ears are blown and everyone's going home. Okay, so you don't want that. All right, so have people check at the loud volume. That's why you hear at these sound checks, people just sound kind of annoying. They're like, check, check, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, right? It's because they want to have that volume. They want to check it at a loud level where it's actually going to be so that when those loud levels hit, you're not surprised by them and your system's set up to handle it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that with the kick again, Raj. And I'm going to move it up. Okay, so give me about as loud as you'd ever hit it, Raj. And I got it peaking somewhere between -12 and -24 dB, and I like that level. So I'm going to go ahead and call that good and move on to the snare. Same thing, Raj. Hit it as loud as you're ever going to hit it today. Same thing, I'm going to adjust the gain until I get it right about in that same pocket. Think you might hit it louder than that, Raj? Maybe a little bit louder? Good deal. Cool, let's go to Tom 1. And as loud as you'd ever hit that, Raj. Cool. Tom 2. All right, and let's go ahead and rock a beat. I'm going to set the mono overhead here. Good. All right, so I hope you guys were able to see what I did there. Basically, I noticed that the snare was maybe going to get a little bit hot, so I backed that off a little bit. That's a great time when they're just rocking a beat, they're playing with more feeling. We might get a little more energy out of there, and we can see if our levels start to creep up, we can back them off. We want to be on the side of a little bit quieter than when we need to. We need to push a lot of input, but we don't want it to be ever nearing that 12 to 6, -12 to -6 range. That's when any sort of like, hard hit or something like that is going to give you digital distortion. And if you've ever heard digital distortion, it does not sound good. It's terrible. You want to avoid that like the plague. Okay, you can push your faders to give yourself more volume, and that's where we want to get to. Okay, so we're going to move on to the bass here. Mr. Ryan Duffy, if you wouldn't mind. All right, we are good to go. Let's go ahead and have Andrew Larrivee play the keys here. All right, same thing, Andrew. Make sure that you're giving me as much as you'll ever give me. Good to go. Let's do the guitar. Yep, you want to keep switching through your patches. Okay, you want to go ahead and do some strumming on that? Give me some hits. Let's go ahead and move on to the ukulele. And again, I've set all this stuff up ahead of time. We're using a direct box on the ukulele. So I had that set up and sound checked before he was even got here. So we're not running in any surprises with the DI. So you can work ahead a little bit on that. All right, let's go ahead and have you play. Okay. And as loud as you'd ever play on that. Okay, that's about where we want it to be actually. So that's good. Okay, go ahead and let's move on to vocals. Okay, so now this brings me to a section where I tend to want to do my voice compression right away during this part of the phase because I want to work that into part of my, I want the vocals to be compressed right when we start at where they're supposed to be. So let's go ahead and have you check the vocals.
Hey, yeah, 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 yeah. Check 1, 2. Check, check. Hey, yeah, 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 yeah.
Think you get louder than that today?
Hey, yeah. I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Then we're in good shape there. Same thing with Andrew. Give me about as loud as you're going to be today, Andrew.
Check 1, 2. Oh, check, check, check. 1, 2, check. 1, 2.
Found the sweet spot there. Okay. And that is pretty much it. Okay. So we've got everybody's input checked. We're getting good signal from them. We got it peaking where we want it to. So we're focusing on where it's peaking. And if our source isn't giving us enough, then we might be in for a surprise. So that's why I had everybody check nice and loud. Okay. So yeah, this is a really important step, probably one of the most important, because if you stage the gain incorrectly, you can overload inputs, causing that digital distortion we talked about. So you don't want to be surprised by anything like that. If somebody suddenly switches their keyboard patch and their next one is twice as loud, that's just going to like wreck your system, right? So like, do you have a louder patch than that? For one thing, that keyboardist should make sure that they're sending you an even signal. That's on them. But you can be ready for it. Do you have a louder patch than that? Let's switch to that. And then check that one. Okay? Setting up your gain this way is going to give you what's called headroom. Okay? So you want to have headroom on your faders. So your faders are going to be the next thing that we're going to push up to actually push the sound through the PA system. And we want to have headroom with our faders so that it's like, oh man, that guitar's too quiet, but I'm out of room to push this fader any louder. Okay, we don't want to get to that point. We want to have plenty of headroom where we can get it louder if we want to. Now let's move on to our auxiliary sends, and we'll focus on the monitors first because I want the band to be comfortable. I can always like turn up some faders and mix them through the PA pretty quickly. That's just turning them up to get them to the level where my ear says they're good. But what we can't do while the audience is there waiting for the show is be checking monitors. We want to do that ahead of time if we can. Nobody likes a monitor check, like literally nobody likes it, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our auxiliaries. So what we're going to do here is go to our aux sends. And luckily, the only things that we're going to need to put through our monitors today are going to be the vocals and our ukulele. And that's probably going to be it for this type of situation. Sometimes when you're in the bigger shows, you know, the drummer has their own wedge for the kick drum because they like to feel the kick drum right next to them. They might be on a separate auxiliary. Again, if we don't know what an auxiliary is, we got to do our research, right? We got to do our homework. We got to know what an auxiliary is. Let's go ahead and move on to our auxiliary for the vocals. So let's go ahead and have you check your mic there, David.
Check 1, 2. Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. Check
So,
1,
wrong
2.
vocal. Here we go.
Check, check. Check 1, 2. Check, check. Check, check 1, 2. Hey, hey, hey.
Okay,
one, two.
so what's happening here is I'm running out of room to turn him up. So what that's telling me is that the speaker is too quiet. So we're going to have you turn that up, David, a little bit. All right, let's check it again.
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
See, now I barely have to bring it up to
Check
the middle, and we
1,
got plenty of
2.
signal.
Just the vocals.
Yeah, just the vocals, yep.
Check 1, 2, 1, 2. I think that sounds really good right there.
Right there?
Just want to check with my effect on. Hey. Check 1, 2. Yeah.
So good, nice work. Let's go ahead and move on to the key vox.
Check 1, check 2, 1, 2, check. Oh, check 1, 2.
And now I want to make sure that they have a good balance between them. So you guys want to both check at the same time and make sure that we're at a good level.
Check 1,
check
2.
1, 2. Ooh, check 1, 2.
Yep.
How's that feel? Feels pretty good? All right, so these guys are happy. We're going to move on to, now if we had other auxiliaries, let's say, you know, everybody's got their own monitor mix, we would use our other auxiliaries for that. You know, we'd have the drummer's got their own monitor, we'll put that on aux 3, and you can tab between them up here. You can see them on the top here, switching through the different auxiliaries, and we do the same process where we can send through the different auxiliaries to our different, wherever we want the sound to go. Okay, so let's go ahead and check that good old ukulele. All good? Cool. All right, so that's easy enough. All right, so we've got our monitors checked. Now we're going to move on to the next module, which is sound mixing itself.